Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing my out-of-box review for the real grade Sinanju. Well, it's finally here, and I got this assembled as fast as I could to get this review out to you guys as soon as possible. This kit does take a while to put together. Definitely, probably of all the real grades that I've built, this one probably took the longest. The plastic that you're dealing with is a lot more delicate. You have that gold plating that you don't want to scratch by accident. Even the red is all that high gloss, gloss coated red that you have to be really careful with when you're removing the nubs and when you're just working with it in general. You don't want to scratch that. It is kind of easily scratched. So yeah, this kit takes a little bit longer to build than your average real grade. The other thing is that if you're like me and you've already seen a couple of reviews start to trickle out of this kit so far, there's a lot about this kit that is really nice, but this kit is definitely problematic, to say the least. And so I would, if you guys have been watching my channel for a long time, you know that I don't like to recommend one kit or the other. Like for beginners, I think if you're a beginner, just go ahead and get whatever kit you want because it's all pretty much the same. This kit is one that I would not recommend for beginners. So if you're a beginner and like you've never built in a real grade before, I would definitely not recommend this for your first real grade. There are better real grades out there. I wouldn't say don't buy this kit. If you really love this kit, if you love the way it looks, then go ahead and go for it. If you're just wanting to start diving into real grades though, or if you're just kind of getting started in Gunpla in general, I would not recommend this kit for you guys. So just want to say a big thank you to MindFenix Hobby Store for sending me this kit to share with you guys because it is definitely a really fascinating kit. I was very much looking forward to checking it out. It's a very curious kit. I love the master grade. I just recently built and reviewed the high grade for you guys. I thought that was a fantastic kit, so I was really interested in seeing how this one was going to compare. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. I just want to focus on just reviewing this kit here for you guys first before we talk about any comparisons. So if you are more interested in just the comparisons, just hang tight for just a bit here while we talk about this. So if you've seen some other reviews, you've seen that some parts don't like to stay on the kit, parts fall off. Some parts don't really work as well as they should. The one big problem you'll notice we're here right off the bat is that the kit can't stand up by itself. I had a hard time, even without the backpack attached, I had a really hard time just getting this kit to stand up because it has that thing that some kits have, and I don't really know why, where like the feet just don't seem to sit flat. The kind of the back part, like the ankle part, not the ankle joint, but like the back of the foot, doesn't seem level with the front of the foot, so it's kind of very tricky. I don't know, you have to really work at it to just get the kit to stand up on its own. With the backpack, I think it's just basically impossible, unfortunately. If you remember, this kit is built around the real grade frame number 5, which was used for the Gundam Mark II. I think that the construction of the kit around that frame is really ingenious. Like putting the kit together, it is really interesting. I will say that. If nothing else, this is a very interesting kit to build, just the way that everything goes together. It is really nicely engineered. It's just that the fact that it just kind of falls apart once it's all put together. But putting it together is really interesting, so that's always refreshing. Although at the same time, as much as it is interesting, it's also a little bit tiring, just because, like I said, you have to be so careful. With it being a real grade, there is of course a lot of really small parts, and then as I said, you're working with gold-plated plastic and that red plastic. Now, probably of the other problems that we'll talk about with this kit, just in terms of articulation and things falling off the kit and things like that, my biggest problem with this kit is the gloss red plastic. I don't like that. It looks nice, I'll give you that it looks kind of nice if you like a glossy look. I personally don't, but for the Sinanju, I can see why Bandai wanted to do that. It is kind of fitting for the look of the Sinanju. But the consistency of the plastic is like the consistency of clear parts, and I don't mean like clear effect parts that are like a little bit soft. I mean like the clear effect parts that are a real pain to work with, just because of how easily they like chip and tear when you're trying to remove the nubs. So when you're removing the nubs, if you want to maintain that gloss finish, you don't want to sand them because then you're sanding off the glossy finish and you're ruining that. So you're left to removing the nubs only by hobby knife, and it's very easy to break and tear those nubs. So what I'm saying is that you're going to have some nasty nub marks on this kit. It's kind of unavoidable. no matter how careful you are. I would definitely recommend, just the best thing that you can do is just make sure you're using a very sharp knife when you're working on this, and be careful. Of course be careful, but just make sure you're using a very sharp knife. You, like, over the course of building this kit, you will probably want to use maybe 2 or 3 knife blades just to keep your blade nice and sharp while you're working with this, because you want to get as clean cut as possible without breaking or tearing the plastic when you're removing those nubs, because unfortunately the way that they've molded the plastic, it is that type of plastic that you will have that problem. So as far as the gate marks on the gold parts, most of them are undergated, but there are a few gates that are not in undergated locations, that are in visible locations, that you will see small little nub marks, but you have to look really close. And the plastic underneath the gold is yellow, so it's not really all that noticeable, so that's kind of not so bad. Now let's get into talking about some of the articulation, because that is one of the things that has been a complaint about the kit thus far. So the head is nicely articulated. We'll go up to about there, and you can see I do have a green sticker on the mono eye inside there. We'll go down to about there. Overall, and really nice sharp antenna here on the top. Looks really good. The head mold overall looks really nice. Unfortunately, the head is barely attached onto there. I can't figure out if there's a trick to it. I've tried pressing it down super hard onto this ball joint. No matter how hard you press, it only goes on there so hard, and it's just barely on there. So moving the head around, you're going to find that the head comes off very easily. Now, the other thing that I thought was disappointing about the head is, you see on the back of the head, there's this small little like bump detail there in the center. There's a seam line going straight down through that. On the high grade, the seam line goes like around that bump. So when you're removing the seam line, all you have to do is you'll have to sand just the flat parts here at the bottom and there at the top. Here, the seam line actually goes through that raised detail, which is kind of annoying. So it seems like the mold of the head is actually better in this case on the high grade kit. The shoulders are going to be pretty nice. They're going to be able to come forward only to about there, but they're going to go up nice and far. If we can get this shoulder armor out of the way here like that. Again, just want to be a little bit careful just with how this is going to bend. We can see we can bring that up pretty well like that. I guess it can go up farther, but I think it's being a little bit stiff. You can see this shoulder armor will come off pretty easily. It's just the type of shoulder armor that just snaps down onto there. But I think with that off, why don't I give you a look at this here. So it'll just come up to there. I guess it's really not that great. One problem that I have here, and this, here, let me come back to this here in a minute. This is what I thought was interesting about how the kit was engineered around the frame of the Gundam Mark II. So the frame is there, but obviously the Sinanju is much larger than the Gundam Mark II. So what they've done essentially is like really gotten creative with how it's used. So like this part that you see that's actually holding this, on the Gundam Mark II, that's the part that actually plugs into this arm. So that part would usually be going that way, but they've turned it around and had it out this way to hold this part of the armor, while you're building a new part around here that actually plugs into the body of the mobile suit. So it's just kind of very clever things like that. On the shoulder armor, we do have this panel that opens up there, and you can see there's a metallic sticker that's under there that will give you a little bit more detail. Of the stickers, I have used most of these metallic ones here, with the exception of these two that I think I just missed in the manual where those go. I haven't used these and won't use these, so if you want these, leave a comment down below. I don't know how useful they'll really be unless you have this kit, but if you want these, just go ahead and leave a comment. I'll send you whatever's left of these here, and you can have those. But didn't mention that in the unboxing because I wasn't sure if I was going to use them or not. I think I'm not going to. Then under the shoulder we have this silver piece which kind of comes down a little bit there as well. So that's kind of nice. It adds a little bit more detail in there. There's some stickers on that part as well. It's just kind of really hard to see. In the shoulder, this part opens up, so we have a multiple layer here. Again, very much like the Master Grade Sazabi Verka in this separation there. The arm is going to rotate at the top, of course. Here we're going to have a kind of seam line there on this upper arm. It's kind of made to look like it's supposed to be a panel line, but I think it would just look better if you just filled that in and that was just one solid piece. The arm is going to give you a nice bend now. This is a really cool part of engineering in the arm here. You'll see some separation between this black and gold part and the red. When you bend this up, you can see that this part separates from there, and that's actually where the beam saber handle is. So when we get this closed up like that, the actual beam saber handle is not in there. It's just like supposed to be in there, but you can raise that part off like that, and you can plug your beam saber effect part into the arm there, which is really cool gimmick. The way that the black parts fit in between the gold parts does work pretty well, I think. I was a little bit worried about that, about how well it was going to work and how well it was really going to look. And I think it looks pretty good, to be honest. I'm more impressed than disappointed with it, so that's good. I still think that the details are just better when they're more sharp, like on the master grade or the high grade. Yes, unfortunately you have to paint that, but I think the sharper detail is better, personally. Getting in here to the waist is another problematic area because there's kind of a lot built in there, and it does bend to the side pretty well, like that, forward, like to here, back, nice and far like that. But I feel like the more that you mess with that, the looser it's going to get, and it's just not going to stay. As you can see, it's a little bit wobbly now already as it is. So I think the more you mess with that, it's going to get more loose. So let's see, the fuel tank fell off here. And the head fell off, and you're starting to see some of the problems with this kit. Now the cockpit hatch does open. You can lift up this top part, lift down this bottom part, and the middle part kind of opens up as well. And then that's our cockpit inside there. Cool gimmick, and works well. No cockpit, no pilot inside there, of course, but it's just a cool thing built into there. You could do something interesting with that. The front skirts are just going to move independently, but they are a little bit limited by the hose that's plugged in there. But those move pretty nicely. As for the side skirts, those move up and down a little bit as well, not a whole lot, but they do also have this cool gimmick now where this part will pull down. Let's see, pull down, pull down. Yep, I figured that would happen. It would just pull off instead of pulling down. Can't really get this to move. There we go. There we go. That just extends like that, exposing some of that silver plastic part inside there. So again, it's a cool thing, but it's really tight, and so when you're trying to pull it when it's actually attached, it's kind of hard to do. So there we go. Moving around to the backpack here, it's very similar to the HG and just how these will move around here like this. I feel like the HG looks better though when they're like down. When these are pointed down, this top part is higher, and I think that's more accurate to how it should be. But this, when they're pointed down, they're just like the whole thing is too far down. So like from the front, you like can't see that at all, but sorry, it's kind of low there. But on the HG, like when those are pointed down in the back, you can actually still see them like up a bit more. If that makes sense to what I'm trying to say here. These will open up like that, like on the high grade, and we can see there's some more detail with these silver parts inside there. But then of course these whole things here separate there, and then they also extend out. Now one thing is that they extend out to a degree, but that degree is often kind of hard to find without just pulling it completely off here, like that. Or as you can see, just these parts just all kind of coming apart. But anyway, once that's opened up, it's gonna look like that, and it looks really good. And that's just kind of the theme of this kit. Hard to get it to do what you want it to do without it totally falling apart, but when you can get it to do it, it looks really good. So that is how that's gonna look. Fuel tanks are just going to be able to move. Of course, those are just on ball joints. Nice that we have gray plastic pieces inside of there, so that's not stickers or something you have to paint, but or if you do paint, you can't paint that easier. Here in the middle part too, this part actually opens up as well. You can see it's closed up, looking like that. Then you can open this part up a bit as well. Those thruster bells inside there, you can move a little bit, but probably not going to want to mess with that too much. The back skirts are going to be articulated separately, and we have these little vents here that you're going to be able to open and close. Again, very small thing that's probably going to be pretty unnoticeable. There are some stickers inside there as well too, but you do have that point of articulation there just in case anyone's wondering. The legs, the thighs, you're going to have rotation at the top. The knee is going to give you a nice bend here. When you bend that, you have some separation with the red part and the gold part will move separately there, so it works pretty well. I've seen other people saying that these knee parts come off very easily. The red parts have been falling off mine like crazy. The black and gold parts haven't fallen off yet, but I emphasize yet because I've seen that that's been a problem for other people. These things here on the side will pull out a little bit away from the kit and move everywhere you want them to. They of course open up like so, like that, exposing some nice detail there underneath. Then we have this extra little flap here on the side of the foot that's only on the outside, it's not on the inside. Then the feet will point down like that, and again, when you have them flat, they just don't seem to be flat between this back red part and this black part. This toe part falls off all the time, so that's just there like that. And then the front part here on the front will move a little bit as well. So that's pretty much it for the articulation. As you can see, it's all there, but it's going to be a little bit of a headache moving stuff around, because as you can see, stuff just falls off very easily with this kit. And I don't know, so I can't really fault it too much in the frame. I don't think it's the fault of using an old frame. I think how Bandai's used that old Mark II frame, I think, is pretty ingenious. The problem is all the new stuff, and especially the type of plastic they're using. They're using plated plastic and high gloss plastic, which I think doesn't have the same friction as just their standard plastic that they usually use. So yeah, that's the problem with that, unfortunately. Now for accessories, as you saw on the kit, it has just holding hands there. You do get like the RG hands, which are connected to the RG frame, but you're not going to actually use those, so just throw those away. You also have the articulated hands, which are on the RG frame, but these are not the right style, not the right shape, not even the right color. And the backs of the hands are totally different from the backs of the other hands, so although you have backs for these, you're probably just not going to want to use these at all. So really, aside from the holding hands that are on the kit, the only other hand option that we do have is this holding hand, which is very, very similar to the left open hand for the HG Origins kits. I think it's like the exact same mold as those. It looks totally the same. But yeah, this is our only other hand option. So hand options on this kit are pretty bad, to be honest. We have our 1/44 scale tiny full frontal figure, which is very nicely detailed, of course. We have that if you feel like painting that. We have our rifle, which is molded all in one color there. We have a sticker for the camera there. We have a sticker for the back of the camera as well. This part folds out like usual, the back part of the camera. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's pretty basic. Our rifle here, really it's a shame that we didn't get a bazooka included with this kit. Very unfortunate that we didn't at least get one. I think we should have got one bazooka, and then, you know, Bandai wants to do their P-Bandai set. Okay, that's great. Then include one more bazooka in the P-Bandai set. That, I think, is how I would have preferred it. But of course, this opens up, and then we can mount the grenade launcher, which is just like this in the exact same color. What you have to do is you have to slide it into this part first, then raise it up and connect it into the barrel, and it's going to look like that. This is how I prefer it, so I'm going to do it like this. But you can, of course, also connect the grenade launcher to the shield. Shield is going to look like this. Looks very nice with those black parts inlaid to the gold. But of course, as I mentioned before in the unboxing, I wish that this gold was actually 3 separate things. We didn't have like gold in between the cracks. Of course, you can fill that in with paint in between there, but again, I would have preferred this as more crisp details instead of like how this is. It's just a different style for the gold, I guess. And yeah, people don't like stickers, but of course you can just paint that and that's going to be better. Anyway, this is going to attach into here like so, and there's the grenade launcher mounted into the shield. Now, as you'll notice, I also have the beam axes mounted into the shield here, and there's a couple of connection points here that you can use. This one is going to mount it around the arm, around the back of the arm. You can also use this piece here, which is the shield connection piece from the inner frame runner, and this is going to actually mount it to this silver piece in the arm. I'll get back to that in a second. And so you have a couple options there, which is nice. The Beam Saber effect parts, of course you can connect them in this form like this. Those just plug into there like that. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to have them active in their up state like that, but if you for some reason wanted to, you could have them like that. Or what you would want to do is just bring these down and you just rotate them around and then stick them in the down position like that. It's a little bit tricky to find the pegs where those kind of are supposed to sit, but then once you do, then you've got your shield like that. Again, this effect part is nice, but I think I prefer the effect part of the HG, to be honest. That's just a personal choice of what kind of style for the effect part. I don't really like this style. That's just me. Anyway, then of course you can just totally remove these if you want, and then you're just using them just as beam axes. You just change the position of the handle down to a lower one. And then to hold that in the hand, it's just a matter of just slipping that down into the hand, and that's it. Now, of course, aside from the short effect part, we also have a longer one that is going to look good on the shield. This is quite long, almost as tall as the Sinanju itself. Of course, attached onto the B-Max. It's going to add a little bit more length to that, but there's that. Looks really nice. And then we do also have, of course, our beam sabers. We have 2 of these, and as I said, you can just attach the effect part into the arm there if you want, or otherwise you just have these here. And that's it. Now, as I was about to mention a moment ago, the shield you can use that shield connection part from the inner frame runner, from the MS joint runner, to connect the shield to that sort of part that hangs off the side of the shoulder. If you just want to have the kit standing, it looks terrible because it's just like hanging there by gravity and it just doesn't look good at all. It stays in there well enough, it seems like, but you know, if this angle that you can see it at, that's the same angle that it's going to be if you just have it pointing straight down. So if you're going to do a pose like this where you have the arm out and you're basically kind of using the arm angle to prop up the shield, then it looks kind of passable, but in pretty much any other way it's just not going to. And yeah, just from this first experience of just this first pose that I'm trying to do with this kit, it takes a while to get this kit posed up. Alright, now again, I think this is one of the really cool gimmicks of this kit, is being able to do this by putting the Beam Saber effects into the arm's opening up like that. And here you can see just kind of everything opened up. I've opened up everything on the legs, and in the articulation, as with the HG, I forgot to mention about the back of the legs opening. The main flap as well as the lower small flap also moves on the back of the leg there. So I've got everything opened up, the side skirts extended, the shoulders all opened up everywhere there, the backpack thrusters all opened up. And yeah, there's a few problem areas that I'm having with parts falling off. The biggest parts that falling off, the problem that I've experienced so far, is the shoulder armor, how that just clips down onto the frame. It comes off super easily. The kneecaps, not the gold and black parts that other people I know have experienced, but for me it's just been the red parts fall off super easily on there. And the wrist guards, kind of the black and gold part of the wrist, those plug onto the frame where like the Mark II frame is under there, where you would normally plug the hands into the frame. That whole wrist part is plugged onto that, and then you plug the hands into that part. But that whole wrist part, that black and gold part of the wrist, just falls off very, very easily when you're trying to move the arms around. So those are the biggest problematic parts that I've had falling off on me a lot so far. But again, I think all of those parts could be fixed with a little bit of glue actually. So, well, not the shoulders, but the other parts, the kneecap and the wrist, can be fixed with just a little bit of super glue. So not so bad with stuff falling off, but those are definitely things that you would hope shouldn't be an issue. Alright, so here is our comparison between the real grade here on this side, the high grade on this side. Now, I think it's fair to only compare these and not compare the real grade to the master grade, because it's a totally different scale. I think if you wanted something bigger and you want a 100 scale, obviously the master grade is your only choice. I just want to compare these because they're the same scale, so I think if you wanted a smaller one, these are your 2 choices. In terms of just the outer detail, they're really almost identical. The real grade doesn't really have a whole lot of extra detail on the outside that the high grade doesn't have. So I think that's usually a big difference between real grade and high grade in terms of other mobile suits. But in this case, they have all the exact same detail for the most part. The color separation is a little bit more, especially like on the legs. You can see there's a few little details here that are actually gray bits poking through from the frame, where on this you'll have to paint those in like separately, like to mask them or something. But really all the same details are there. Now of course gimmicks, we have a lot more gimmicks with the real grade in terms of the layered armor, the way that you can separate stuff here there in the shoulders, the side skirts, the backpack. There's a whole lot of more armor layering there. The proportions are going to be slightly different, especially in the forearms. The forearms of the real grade are a lot bulkier. I feel like the thighs and the legs in general for the real grade are also a little bit bulkier, which I think is a little bit more close to the original artwork. But I think, you know, the high grade definitely still looks pretty good. So let me just give you a look, let you get a 360-degree view of these. The other nice thing about the high grade for me is that you can mount the shield onto the side of the arm without having to connect it to that hanging piece of the shoulder armor, which is nice. I prefer the arm on the side. I prefer the shield on the side of the arm. I can't talk. You know, that side of the shoulder armor does get in the way. The side piece of the shoulder armor does get in the way of the shield on the high grade, but I still just prefer that. One thing that I don't like about that part of the real grade is this part here. It can only go down so far. You can only push it. You can't have it like straight down. Like on the HG, you can put it like almost straight down, just like flush, like next to the arm. And this, you can only put it down so far. So that's kind of annoying, to be honest. And of course, like the big part that I think that is going to be the deciding factor for a lot of people is the gold. A lot of people don't like the stickers. The stickers, maybe for some people, are kind of tricky to put on. I really don't think they're that bad, but some people might make that argument that the stickers are kind of hard to put on. They're easier to come off, obviously, and they may not look as good. I personally think I was surprised at how good the stickers look on that kit. I think they look pretty good as far as stickers go, but obviously the part separation of the real grade is kind of nicer, kind of by definition, although as I said before, I like the sharper details. With the high grade, once it's painted, I think the high grade's going to look better with having those details nice and sharp rather than like kind of the rounded edges of the molded plastic of the real grade. So there's definitely pros and cons. Obviously another big difference is going to be the price. The high grade is probably going to be about half the price. Almost is close, but it's definitely going to be a lot cheaper. So I think there's definitely that going for it. The high grade definitely wins by far in terms of the stability. It has just about the same range of articulation. Obviously there's a few more articulation gimmicks built into the real grade, but in terms of just its overall articulation, I think they're going to be pretty much the same for the most part. But in terms of just stability, and I mean that as in like parts falling off and things being wobbly and things like that, the high grade wins by a mile. The high grade is really solid. You don't have anything that's like really loose or anything like that. No parts falling off, when that's obviously going to be the big problem of the real grade. Now, obviously where the real grade, again, is going to win over the high grade by far is just the flashiness of it just out of the box. That high gloss red, that really shiny gold is going to draw eyes between the two. I think more than the high grade. But yeah, again, there's pros and cons. You'll have to weigh that out for yourself. So here's going to be yet another complaint I want to make about this kit, if I may, and that is that the shield connection, although it's on the back of the arm, which I already don't like, once you have the effect parts on there, and not only is that a problem that it's on the back of the arm, it's kind of hard to pose that in any good pose, but just the weight of that and the already kind of tricky articulation and of the arm anyway, it's hard to get this in any kind of pose. That shield and the effect parts is just too heavy for the arm. All you can really do is have it like down. I feel like even like if you tried to point it straight out, it just wouldn't work. So the posing options using the effect parts on the shield is going to be limited, and that's a really cool aspect of the Sinanju. And the fact that you're not really able to do much with that in the real grade form is very disappointing. So, I don't know. To wrap up this review, all I have to say is that if you're a big fan of the Sinanju and you don't want to do a whole lot with this kit, you just want to be able to snap the kit together and have it look nice and pretty on your shelf, then you're gonna be fine with this kit. If you really want to do like a lot of really cool posing with the kit, you want to actually work with it quite a bit, you're probably not going to enjoy this too much. It's going to be just a huge headache for you. Like I said, the gold and black separation, you know, there's pros and cons to that depending on, you know, what you want to do with the kit. The red gloss, I feel, is just a huge misstep on Bandai's part. I really don't think that they should have done that at all. I think if people want a glossy finish to their kit, all they have to do is just buy a can of gloss spray top coat. I know that people will say that that's expensive or they can't get it where they live or something. I know, I realize that, but trust me, that would be so much better, because then the actual plastic wouldn't be affected by that. You would be able to just work with the plastic as normally as you would. You can sand it and do everything and all of that, whatever. Of course, with this, you can sand it and then use polishing compounds and stuff to make it glossy again and yada yada yada, but I just think it just would have been so much better off they would have just molded that red in just a normal kind of, you know, slightly, I guess their normal molding is kind of like a semi-gloss. I think that just would have been so much better instead of having to deal with this, which is just hard to work with and gives you some bad nub marks. So pros and cons to the kit, just have to weigh that out for yourself. I think it looks great, and that is one of the biggest things that is the most important for a kit. Unfortunately, doing anything sort of dynamic with it is going to be a little bit tricky. So yeah, take with that what you may. And yeah, leave any other questions or comments down below. I'm sure there's some stuff that I forgot to mention or some points that I maybe kind of passed over pretty quickly, but I feel like probably not. I have a tendency to reiterate points over and over again, so sorry about that, guys. Thank you so much for watching this review. I have a lot of stuff to review coming up for you guys, so stay tuned for more stuff coming up. And I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.